What is going on, guys? It is the second week of Raw on Netflix. I am the Solomonster. It is another Monday night. Imagine my surprise. As I'm watching the show, the main event, it is coming to an end, and I'm looking at the clock, and I see that it's only 10:30. And I say, could it be? Is it possible? And sure enough, they went off the air early tonight. Now, we knew that this was a possibility because on Netflix, we have been told in interviews that they will have the flexibility to go however long they want to go. Some weeks it might be 3 hours. Some weeks it might be 2 hours. Tonight, the show went 2.5 hours. And honestly, I think that is the perfect length. If you're looking for the perfect compromise between the 2 and 3 hours, right at that 2.5 hour mark, perfect. I think that was exactly what it needed to be tonight. They didn't overstay their welcome. And I enjoyed this show a lot more than I did the premiere last week. And I didn't necessarily hate the premiere the way that some people did. But this show tonight, and I said this last week, last week's show was an introduction to the Netflix audience. That's why they had The Rock there, and they had John Cena's on the show, and they had all these legends and The Undertaker and the celebrities in the crowd and all these different people. Because they were introducing themselves to an audience that ordinarily would not watch WWE, and they wanted to make a big splash. They wanted it to be very flashy. This week's show was going to give us a better indication of what Raw is going to look like and feel like going forward. And I think tonight that was exactly what this show was. The biggest thing about this show, though, that I was looking forward to, the thing that I was most interested to see here on this show tonight, was the debut of Penta, which was spoiled earlier today. I mean, it was spoiled last week when they put his name up on the screen. But we knew Chad Gable was going to be wrestling a mystery luchador coming into tonight. And we didn't know who it was, but we did. And they couldn't even wait. WWE Shop, they already had a page devoted to Penta put up earlier today. He was there and everything. A picture of him wearing his new t-shirt, everything. It was already up earlier today. And I don't even necessarily think it was a bad move on their part to drum up excitement to see his debut tonight, because everybody already knew it was going to be him anyway. But there he was out there tonight. I was curious what the presentation would look like and how he was going to look, what gear he would be wearing, and what that match was going to look like, because Penta is somebody who goes out there and he can go a million miles a minute, and he'll hit you with big move after big move after big move, and he fit that AEW style very well in that way. But this is a whole new turf now, a whole new territory for him. He's never worked in WWE before. It's a whole new ball game. And I thought from start to finish, from the moment that they played his music and he came out, made his entrance, to the moment the bell rang and he had the match with Chad Gable, to the post-match promo. They gave him post-match promo time in the ring to address the audience, which I thought was very cool. And was very important for somebody who they are trying to establish here on day one as something of a big deal. Why should you care? We already have a bunch of luchadors in this company, and we see by and large how WWE and Triple H books them. Okay, Dragon Lee, I could point to different examples like that. They're not exactly positioned at or near the top of the card. So why should we care about Penta? And so I like the fact that they gave you a chance to hear from him, and you could see the emotion on not only his face, but his family in the front row. His kids were there. They were all crying, and you could tell he was so amped up. He was so fired up to be there, so excited to be there. But I couldn't help, I'm watching him, and I'm just thinking, and my thought was, that popped in my head, Tony Khan's loss is Triple H's gain. And I think that's going to be the case potentially with Aleister Black as well. We'll see how that plays out. But with Penta, who has never been in WWE before, but he has been in other places. And my first exposure to him being in Lucha Underground, I became a Pentagon fan watching him on Lucha Underground. I said, this guy's fucking cool. There's something about this guy. The makeup, the mask, just his whole vibe that just screamed cool, even when he was a heel. And he was a world champion in that promotion. In AEW, he was largely relegated to tag team status. And he and Rey Fenix were a great tag team. One of the great tag team champions in AEW history. Had one of the best matches in AEW history in a cage against the Young Bucks, right? He did a lot of cool things in AEW. It's not like he was, buried or, he was He was held on the bottom of the card. I mean, he was featured, but not in the way that I, as a fan of his prior to him coming in there, was hoping that he would be featured as a single. Never got that push. And Tony Khan had him under contract for 5 years. He had 5 years to try to engineer something with Penta that made him more than just a tag team player, and he didn't do it. He dropped the ball. Triple H now picks up the ball, and now we'll see how far they run with it. This is only one night, but I think in this one night they demonstrated that they have the ability to do more with him than Tony Khan ever did. And I hope he gets that opportunity, because I just think not only is he has this cool look and this cool vibe to him, but if you're Triple H and the economy, you can make so much money off this guy. The merchandising opportunities are endless. They already have a $75 mask up on WWE Shop for Penta. Okay. And that's to say nothing of them potentially getting gloves up, right? He pulls the glove off. Like, there's so many merchandising opportunities with this guy. I think it bodes well for him. When you can make that company money in that way, like Jey Uso, right? Jey Uso was selling merch like crazy. He even mentioned it in his promo tonight when he was in the ring with Gunther about how much merch he moves, right? Why do you think he's featured so heavily on television? It's not just because he's got the cool entrance and everybody does the yeet. It's because he moves numbers. He makes money for them. And if you can make money for this company, the more then that you will be featured on TV. So as a kind of a coming out party here on WWE television for people who may not know who he is, I thought they knocked it out of the fucking park tonight. I don't think you could have done that debut, frankly, any better than they did, with the expectation that he's not going to be a main eventer, out of the gate. Yeah, obviously they could have, debuted him and had him take out CM Punk. That was never going to happen. But I think as far as what they did tonight, it could not have gone any better. They knocked it out of the park. One man's gain. Look, Tony Khan, he still has Rey Fenix under contract. He doesn't plan on doing anything with him. Poor Rey Fenix, what's he thinking sitting at home? I'm sure he's happy for his brother. Yeah, I'm sure he was very happy for Penta. But there's a big part of him that's sitting there and it's just killing him, because he just knows, like, that should be me. That should be us together, and it's not. But in the meantime, we have the chance to see how far Penta can go as a single, because Rey Fenix ain't coming in for a while. And that's okay, because you could still do something with this guy, because this guy is a star. And you saw that tonight here on this show. So I loved it as far as what they did with him, and I thought that was the best part of the entire show. That and the main event. Those really were the two highlights of this show tonight. Damian Priest and Finn Bálor, they had a street fight that certainly felt like a blow-off. It should be a blow-off. And I think it is the blow-off. They went out there, and they laid it all out there. And they had a kick-ass main event, a very fun main event, I thought, with one insane spot off the balcony, probably up from like the 200 level. A fucking Falcon Arrow down through two tables down below. They left it all out there. And Damian Priest uttering the words there at the end of that match, "I am not my brother's keeper," as he puts the final nail in the coffin of one Finn Bálor. And what does this mean now for the future of the Judgment Day? Finn Bálor once again looking up at the lights. Liv Morgan no longer the women's world champion. They already lost their tag team titles. Where to next for the Judgment Day? We already know one faction is no longer on Monday Night Raw, and it was brought up in a very casual way tonight. Oh, by the way, the Wyatt Six are no longer on Raw. So that's the end of the feud with the Final Testament, I guess. So as far as the transfer window, that's our first big transfer. Because up until this point, the only real transfers were on the announcer side. So we did learn that tonight. But we also learned about a few different things. We got some more big names added to the Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble match this year, which is so far, and we're not even, halfway into the names that we know, is fucking stacked as far as the names that they have already announced. CM Punk tonight being one of them. But we also know two title matches that are coming up on Saturday night's main event. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. We're already getting another one. We know what the World Heavyweight Championship match is going to be and who Gunther will be defending his title against. And we have an Intercontinental title match that has been announced, and I will tell you what that is. And also tonight, the first ever women's Intercontinental champion has been crowned. It was Lyra Valkyria and Dakota Kai in the finals of this tournament. This is why Penta's debut and the finals of that tournament were held off for this week. Because if they were on the show last week, it would have been lost in all the noise of The Rock and John Cena announcing for the Royal Rumble and Punk and Rollins and Hulk Hogan plugging his shitty beer and all the other stuff that we had on the show last week. So, in terms of like Penta's debut, for example, as a fan of his, it would have been fine with me. I would have loved to have seen him in LA last week, but you do wonder if it would have been overshadowed by all of the other stuff. So at least this week, I think he'll be the one that people are talking about coming out of the show. Likewise, Lyra and Dakota probably got more time than they would have last week, but they still didn't get a lot of time tonight. And part of the problem there was the fact that his match, his promo, everything involving Penta went a lot longer than it was supposed to. And so time had to be cut from at least a couple of matches later in the show. I would imagine that the women's match was one, and maybe Sami Zayn and The Miz was another because they went maybe 4 minutes. Evidently, there were people backstage, wrestlers backstage, who had their time cut who were not very happy that Penta went long, and they'll get over it because shit happens. But that's what happened there. And we'll talk about all of it and more, because this is your Raw on Netflix review. It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on yet another Monday night. This is our second now here for the new year. And again, I thought a much more enjoyable show this week than the one we had last week. I have to have a moment here to thank all of you, because I said it the other day, we were on our way to 83,000 subs. Not only did we hit 83,000 subs, we are now almost 300 subscribers beyond that. We had this little mini explosion of new subs over the last 24 hours. So I want to say welcome to all the new subscribers, and thank you guys for helping to get me there. And also I want to say thank you because I put the Hulk Hogan segment from this weekend's podcast up on the channel, episode 896, and the video, my rant on Hogan, and the real reason why he was booed out of the building last week, is climbing rapidly towards 50,000 views. So if you missed it on the main podcast, you can go check that video out. A lot of comments in there too. I think it's approaching 1,000 comments. So I want to say thank you for all of the engagement there as well. Lots of good content on that podcast this weekend, by the way. Well over 2 hours worth. So go ahead and check that out as well. And be sure to support some of my new sponsors in the description down below. DraftKings being one of them. So welcome to all of our DraftKings folks as well. So you can find all that information in the description down below. New super chats have been added as well. We had some fun with them during the SmackDown review on Friday night. Again, you could find those in the description as well. I did mention that CM Punk has officially announced for the Royal Rumble. He did so in the opening segment here on this show tonight, because he opened the show with a promo in the middle of the ring, fresh off his win last week over Seth Rollins in the main event. And the first thing he did when he came out was acknowledge all of the firefighters and the first responders on the front lines helping fight the wildfires that are raging across the state. They were in San Jose, so they were in California tonight, and I'll echo that because it just seems like hell on earth over there right now. So if any of you watching this are living out that way, I hope you're safe, and I hope you have your home and your health and everything is okay. But Punk said that he has a lot on his plate. One of the things, though, not on his plate anymore is Seth Rollins. It says, last year's Royal Rumble, he noted how he separated his tricep from the bone, said that he thought he could see his career fading away, and he teased not seeing something while doing the John Cena gimmick. I forgot exactly how he phrased it, but he basically, a little shout out there to John Cena. And then he actually brought up Cena. He spoke directly to him and said that he sees him, and he always has. Now, you have to imagine Cena is back for this year, right? Cena's going to be around for the entire year. We have to at some point. I mean, I could see them as tag team partners even. You want to do like a tag team match on one of the, television shows? But at some point, we have to have John Cena and CM Punk one more time. Because honestly, when I think back to Cena's great rivals in his career in WWE, CM Punk for me is number one. And I know some people are going to disagree with that and they're going to say Randy Orton. And I think they're just blinded by the fact that they had so many freaking matches. And I've always said this over the years whenever this question comes up. Quantity does not equal quality. Just because you have 1,000 matches with somebody doesn't make them your greatest rival or that you have the greatest matches with them. Now, if you said Edge, I wouldn't argue with it, but I would say CM Punk because they had some great fucking matches together, but they were just polar opposites. And they say, opposites attract. Everything that Cena was and he represented was the opposite, the antithesis of what CM Punk at that time was representing. And it just blended together so well. So when I look at Punk, I look at Cena's greatest rival, and I think that in his final year, of all the people Cena's going to step into the ring with, Punk, it has to happen at least once. When that will happen, I don't know, but I am sure that at some point we are going to get it. But he said, much like Cena last week, he was here to officially declare for the Royal Rumble match, and he was going to throw 29 other men over the top rope and go to WrestleMania. I always love, like even years ago, when people would cut these promos and I'm going to throw 29 people over the top rope. The Undertaker would say, I'm going to throw 29 souls. Has there ever been, and nobody in the history of the Royal Rumble has ever thrown 29 people out of the ring. I mean, it sounds nice, but it's never been done before. But they always say, I'm going to throw 29 people out of the ring. See, I wouldn't say that. I would just say, look, you're going to have these 29 idiots beating each other up. I'm going to handcuff myself to the bottom rope, and when they're all gone, I win. And that's how you win the Royal Rumble. Nobody's done that either. So Seth Rollins interrupted. And he was actually dressed as normal as I've ever seen him before in my life. I think he had like a glitter jacket, but that's as normal as he's ever looked. Comes down to the ring. He had a nice shiner under his right eye, thanks to one of the GTSs that Punk hit him with last week. He said he's lost a lot of matches in his career. Said he's lost a lot of big matches in his career. But last week was the worst loss of his career. And the only shot at redemption that he has is to flush CM Punk's hopes and dreams, his WrestleMania hopes and dreams, down the toilet by entering the Royal Rumble and throwing him out over the top rope. And he said that Punk is not going to win the Royal Rumble because he is going to win the Royal Rumble, and he's going to dump Punk out of the ring in order to do it. And that brought out Drew McIntyre. Now, we got there. Remember that great segment last year on Raw? I think it was right before WrestleMania, I think. But all three of these guys were in the ring. McIntyre was sitting cross-legged on the announce desk. One of the best segments on television all year last year. This was not that. I was kind of hoping when I saw McIntyre come out, I said, oh, maybe we'll get, an encore of that. This was not as good as that. But McIntyre comes out. And he says, just when he thought that he couldn't get any more selfish or self-serving, he manages to top himself. And Punk just sort of automatically assumed that he was talking about him, so he starts popping off. And, Punk says that you take one more step towards this ring, it's going to take a lot more than 15 staples to close your head this time. McIntyre said that I was talking to Seth. I know you think the world revolves around you, but I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Rollins. So Rollins told him to bring his big ass to the ring and he'll stomp his head. Drew said the two of them are a lot alike, but at least Punk admits that he's a piece of crap. He said Seth acts like this big leader, but it's all just an act. He pointed out that once, this was before Survivor Series, Rollins made the comment that we cannot let Roman Reigns regain power. Said we cannot allow him, after what happened last time, to regain power here in this company. Yet in Tribal Combat last week, Rollins was nowhere to be found. when everyone was trying to do their part. Drew said, I neutralized Jey Uso. That's why Jey Uso didn't get involved in tribal combat. He was so worried about McIntyre, but Seth was nowhere to be found. He was in the back. He was too worried about his own little match in the main event, which, by the way, he lost. And so he said it's pathetic. Rollins said that I've got no patience for any of this crap. Punk interrupted and said, you got no patience. He goes, I've got no patience for any of this. So if any of you want to swing, let's go. Okay, this guy's ready to throw hands like it's Chicago in 2022. So Drew started to make his way down to the ring. Seth was ready to go. Here comes McIntyre. McIntyre stops, though, and says, no. Why would I ever do that? There's a bigger problem going on right now. Roman is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. He said Roman's got his falafel already. I fucking died. I thought it was funny, you know, when we had LA Knight on SmackDown. What did we call the Ufalafa? What he called it, the Ufalafa. But he calls it, Roman's got his falafel back, so he's very happy. He goes, if only there was a way that he could get his hands on the title before Roman does. He goes, oh, wait, there is. And that's because I'm going to win the Royal Rumble match. So that was pretty much it. That's it. We had Rollins, we had McIntyre, and we had Punk all in the course of this segment declaring for the Royal Rumble. Now, I would have been able to take McIntyre a little more seriously when he was, taking jabs here at Rollins losing his match last week if McIntyre hadn't lost his fucking match last week, which he did. And we found out why that is later in the show, considering what Jey Uso is doing at Saturday night's main event. But McIntyre lost too. So, you shouldn't throw stones. But you look at the lineup so far. What do we have for the Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble match so far? We know Roman Reigns, John Cena, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso, and LA Knight have all declared for the Royal Rumble match so far. That right there is a stacked lineup. You look at the big stars, top stars in the company right now. That's the vast majority of them right there. Right? Who else is missing? Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens are having a ladder match. Sami Zayn, I'm sure he'll be in the Rumble. Priest and Bálor, people like that. Logan Paul, I'm sure, will be in the Royal Rumble match. But that's a stacked lineup right there. Not even counting any potential surprises like Rock or somebody else who might possibly want to be in the Rumble match. As far as the follow-up between Punk and Rollins, I still find it hard to believe that what we got last week was a one and done. And it wasn't, in that Rollins came out this week and said, look, I'm gonna dump you out of the ring at the Rumble. But I still feel like we have to get at least one more match. It might not be at WrestleMania. It might not. Maybe they do it at Elimination Chamber. I still feel like we are going to get one more match, singles match, between these two men, at least. But the follow-up here is that we're both going to be in the Rumble, and I'm going to dump you out. So that way, you can't go to WrestleMania. You can't win a championship. So that was the follow-up with Punk and Rollins. So not quite done yet, but no indication that it's going to go beyond the Rumble. We'll have to wait and see what happens at the Rumble itself. But that was the opening promo of the night. Now we get to the opening match of the night, which had Chad Gable out to the ring to challenge the best luchador that Adam Pearce could find. The best luchador that money could buy. As Michael Cole said, the worst kept secret in the wrestling business. I mentioned it earlier, WWE Shop, they spoiled their own surprise by putting all his merch up on WWE Shop earlier today. But again, you could buy your very own Penta mask for $75. They're charging more than AEW is for the hologram mask. They have a hologram mask on Shop AEW for $50. You can get the Penta mask for $75.
Monster, look, I got tickets. One for me. And one for you. Yeet.
Look how excited Solo Sikoa is. He got tickets. Now, he was not on the show tonight. I don't know what tickets he got there, but it wasn't to the show in San Jose. Maybe he'll be in Dallas next week. Actually, Solo Sikoa will be on SmackDown this Friday. Too bad I won't be here to review it. But he'll be back on the show on Friday night. But yes, we had the debut of Penta. Why is Solomonster a Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him? Hey, Emmett, what's going on, Emmett? Thank you for the super chat. That's a big one, too. That's what she said. Emmett, thank you very much. I'm going to get to your message and everybody else's here in a little bit, but we got to talk about Penta. Lights go out. Penta has basically generic rock music. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's terrible, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's anything great. It's average. It's okay. It's fine. It's not a vibe. It's not a vibe in the way like Nakamura, okay? They upgraded Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance. So they took his old music and they kind of tweaked it and changed it around a little bit and made it a little more dark. And when he comes out and makes his entrance now, right, the announcers lay out and he comes out and it's like this whole big presentation. And I like it. I like the presentation. I actually like the music. The music here, it is what it is, but the presentation itself I thought was great. And he got a great reaction and he came out and the gear he was wearing and everything, like he looked great. They're going to sell a ton. They're going to sell a ton of Penta merch. Start selling that glove, I'm telling you. You start selling those Cerro Miedo gloves. You'll have idiots out there like me when I bought the one sock. Mr. Socko, one fucking sock, $8. You'll have people paying for one glove. So Cole on commentary, he referred to Penta as a former TNA World Champion. He referred to Penta as a former two-time Lucha Underground champion. I mean, where's the last time we got a Lucha Underground reference on WWE television? Okay, I don't remember ever. I don't think that's ever happened. We've heard CMLL, and we've heard TNA, I think Ring of Honor. So he's going through basically all of the championships that Penta has won in his career, except AEW. So you would listen to this and think, wow, this guy worked everywhere, man. He worked in TNA and he worked in AAA, Lucha Underground, AEW the last 5 years, never happened. Why did I buy the sock? Wouldn't you like to know? I'm going to keep that to myself. Mr. Socko, come on, man. Mr. Socko. Of course, Sidro. Sidro would be the one to bring that up. I'm not surprised. So Penta's in the ring, and he's all fired up. He's got a look on he's like, he's looking around like he could actually see fans in the crowd. He's looking here. He's looking at the hard camera side. Oh, my God, there's actual asses in the seats. He looked shocked here, and he was all fired up. He was so happy to be there. And the fans were already with the Cerro Miedo chants. So not everybody, but a good portion of the crowd, clearly they knew him. They knew the chant. So they traded him and Gable, they traded arm drag takedowns and some other back and forth offense early on. And then they come to a stalemate and the fans applaud for both men. So this crowd tonight in San Jose was great. I was a little worried because I figured, oh man, LA last week, they used to film Lucha Underground in LA, downtown LA. Like that would have been like the perfect place, for him to debut. I hope San Jose gives him a rousing response. They were great. I thought they were great pretty much throughout the entire show. So with Gable on the apron, Penta went for a springboard move. Gable, though, caught Penta and hit a German suplex on the apron to take control. And then Gable went to work. He went to work on the ankle, slowed the match down. Penta sold this ankle for the rest of the match. I have never seen Penta sell in a match in my life as much as he sold that fucking ankle, to the point where there were people asking when the show was over if he was really hurt. And I saw Mike Johnson on PW Insider said, no, he was just selling. He's fine. He didn't tweak the ankle. He didn't break it. He didn't roll it. It's fine. He's healthy. It's good. He was selling more than I ever saw him sell in Lucha Underground, in fucking TNA, and AEW for sure. I mean, he was holding on to that thing for the rest of the match. House of Glory, everywhere I've ever seen him. Because with him, it's always like, boom, 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 big move after big move. So Gable went to the top. He dove off the top for a splash. Penta rolled out of the way. Two men got to their knees. They traded chops. They continued this as they both made their way back up to their feet. Gable sent Penta into the ropes. Penta came back with a sling blade. Then he backdropped Gable over the top and to the outside. And then he went for a tope. And he went for a tope out to the floor. And Gable did not catch him. He collided with Gable. He accomplished his goal. He took Gable down, but then he splatted on the floor. And the referee ran out there to make sure he didn't kill himself. So that got some uncensored holy shit chants from the live crowd, which I hope you enjoyed them. And if you missed the show, you better go back and watch it, because within the next 72 hours, those chants will probably be muted, like the fuck you solo chants were during the introductions to Tribal Combat last week. It usually takes 48 to 72 hours, I think is what it took last week, and they will edit that shit out. So just be aware of that. But if you're watching live, then you can listen to it in all of its glory. So back in the ring, Penta hit a crossbody off the top. Then came a backstabber out of the corner for a near fall. Penta riled up the crowd, and he kicked the hell out of Gable. Gable popped up, though, hit him with a German suplex. Penta came back with a head scissors and a Mexican destroyer. That's what they called it. A Mexican destroyer. And when I say he spiked Gable with this move, he spiked Chad Gable with this move. So when he went for the pin, initially, I was very disappointed when Gable kicked out, because I said, oh, here we go. Again now. All these companies, the destroyer should be a finish, and it's just treated like any other move. And this looks so fucking great. It looks so stiff. Like it would have been perfectly fine to end the match with this. But Gable kicked out. But at least they actually stayed down and they sold it. At least they stayed down and they sold it for a little bit. Gable came back with a dragon screw leg whip and then the ankle lock. And Penta eventually was able to counter out of that with the arm breaker. And so now when I saw him going for the arm breaker, I said, all is forgiven. All is forgiven, because now he's going to try to break this fucking guy's arm. And he is calling it the sacrifice. And he did. He snapped the arm. And then finally he put Gable away with the Penta driver, which is his pump handle half Nelson driver for the win. So I take it all back. I popped big when he went for that arm breaker, because again, that just takes me back, man, to the Lucha Underground days, the arm collector. That's the version of Penta I was waiting for 5 years in AEW when we never fucking got it. But he used it here in this match. He got to show off all of his key moves. The destroyer, the arm breaker, the Penta driver. After the match was over, Jackie Redmond gets into the ring, and she's going to interview Penta. Now, his wife and kids, I presume, I mean, they didn't even say it initially, but I assumed it was his wife and kids. They were, the kids especially, were crying their eyes out. Otherwise, if it wasn't his family, that's just fucking weird. So his family's in the front row, and they're very emotional. And he thanks San Jose, said that this is his new home. Honestly, you know, if you were wondering, his English in this promo was pretty good. His English was good. Like, you know, you can, there are some guys who obviously it's not their first language. They're maybe in the middle of learning it. Like Julia has talked about how she's, you know, really learning and studying English right now. And even now, like, her English is not bad and it'll only get better. But we just never really had the chance to have Penta like in the middle of the ring cutting too many long promos in AEW. And then he had Alex Abrahantes with him, and he was really doing the promo stuff. But his English here, I thought, was perfectly acceptable. So he thanks San Jose. This is his new home. But he knows that everybody was waiting for this moment. He said the real truth is that he's been waiting for this moment. Oh, I'll bet. I'll bet he's been waiting a while for this moment. His brother's also sitting at home waiting for this moment. You ever see those memes? Every time there's a Friday the 13th comes along on the calendar, they have the Jason Voorhees meme, or there's like a video that goes around where he crosses another day off the calendar. And if it's not the 13th yet, he's very disappointed. But like every day that goes by, he's putting a little X on the calendar. That's Ray Phoenix right now at home. He's got a fucking wall calendar in his house. And he's got the pen, and every day that goes by, he's putting a little X through each box until his contract is up so that he can come to WWE enjoying his brother. But he said some Spanish. He got into a little bit of Spanish here. He said that he knows this is a new era for WWE. So this is not only the Netflix era. Now is the Penta new era. So that got a huge pop. And then he spoke some more Spanish and he ended with his Cero Miedo catchphrase. And everybody did it. Everybody chanted along with him. The whole crowd did. This was, in a word, a fantastic debut. I thought that this was great. Chad Gable was the perfect opponent for his first match. He has taken in one match to the so-called WWE style, which generally is slower than what you would see in AEW. AEW is typically a faster pace in most matches. In WWE, that's not the case. And so you wonder, how is someone like him going to adapt to the WWE style? Well, as far as this first match is concerned, he adapted fine. No issues. Obviously, they slowed him down a little bit. He was selling the leg, made a big comeback at the end. It was all set up fine. There were a few moments kind of in the early going where he looked a little off. I don't want to say rusty, but just, a little off, but nothing that was major or, got some kind of a negative reaction from the crowd or brought down the match in any significant way. It was fine. I just thought the two of them had a really good match and they gave them time. They got almost 15 minutes, which, as Mike Johnson is reporting, perhaps they were not supposed to go 15 minutes, but they went almost 15 minutes. And you could make the argument that as a debut, maybe this should not have been as competitive because this was by no means a squash match. I mean, they gave Gable a lot. You knew Gable was losing. As soon as they announced that he was going to face Penta without saying it was going to be Penta, you knew, okay, well, it's another loss for Chad Gable. Ain't no fucking way he's winning this match. But how is that any different from any other match he's in? So I already accepted that he was going to lose. I actually didn't think they were going to give him as much as they gave him in this match. So as a fan of Gable's, I didn't mind that because I didn't really think it hurt Penta in any significant way. But you can make the argument maybe it shouldn't have been as competitive because Chad Gable has been booked like a fucking loser. He never wins. Every big match, every big opportunity that he gets, he fails. He falls flat on his face. He is a loser. So why should Penta in his first match go in there and have a tough time? And why should it take 14 minutes for him to put down somebody like Chad Gable? And it's a fair point. It didn't bother me here, though. But it's a fair point to make because, unfortunately, they have not given Gable a whole lot of credibility recently. But what it did do was it gave Penta a chance to go out there and make a big, babyface comeback, and the crowd was with him the entire time, and he got his moves over, all of his key, moves. So he made Penta fight for it in this match. And you add in that promo that they had him do in the ring when it was over, and he came off as a bigger star in one night, than he did in 5 years working in AEW. And it's sad because there was so much more potential in him from a singles perspective that just Tony Khan never tapped into. It's the same thing with Malachi Black. I just talked about this on the podcast yesterday. I still, for the life of me, cannot figure out why. Why was he relegated in 71 matches that he had in his AEW career in 3 years? Out of 71 matches, 15 of those were singles matches. 5 of those singles matches came last year. Why? Why? Why would you take somebody who has such potential to be a star for you? Because he showed it when he debuted in the company. Malachi, I'm talking about. It's not even like, we need a proof of concept. That was your proof of concept when he beat Cody Rhodes. It's the same thing with Penta. When you have somebody who came from somewhere else and demonstrated that he could be a star on his own, why would you not tap into that? Why, for 5 fucking years, would you leave him in a tag team? The only times he really wasn't part of the team is when his brother was hurt. So yeah, he did some singles matches, but he never got any kind of meaningful singles push. Tony Khan's loss is now Triple H's gain. What Triple H does with it, we have to wait and see. But if the first night is any indication, I have a lot of high hopes for this. How high he's going to go? He's going to be a main eventer? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there was so much untapped potential in him as a singles performer that hopefully now, this is a company that recognizes what they have in him and they take advantage of it. And he'll get himself over. But it's a fumbled ball, no doubt about it. And look, I mentioned Malachi Black. He's next. I think he's going to have his chance to come back to WWE and prove the same thing. That, look, you had something in me and didn't take full advantage of it. And so your loss is going to be somebody else's gain. For their sake, I hope it works out for them. Because both of them are two tremendous talents who can make any promoter a shitload of money, and they're very entertaining and charismatic in their own way. Penta in particular, it just has a certain charisma about him that a lot of people just don't have. But a big part of it is the look. He just has a fucking cool look. Now we just got to get him some fucking cool music. Because his music right now, we could do better. It's not great. But I thought this was fantastic. Now the Judgment Day, not so fantastic. The Judgment Day were in the back, talking among themselves, the guys were, when Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez walked in. And Liv was asking if they were talking about her.
I love you, Solo! You are my tribal chief.
Thank you, Sidro. I appreciate the love. Dominic Mysterio walked in. Why is Solomonster a Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him? Oh man, is the Gunther bomb? Did Gunther go on vacation again tonight? Gunther is supposed to be the 50. That happens from time to time. I think Gunther just he decides he's taking the night off. I guess he's got some dates built into his contract where he could do that. He could just take off. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that super chat very much. You guys are awesome. I'm feeling the love, just like Solo Sokoa. I'm feeling the love. Dom had a bunch of roses for Liv. Now remember what happened last week. Rhea Ripley won the women's championship back, and Dominic Mysterio wanted to give her a hug. He was ready to jump ship because this woman lost her title. So he thinks that he's going to buy some flowers for Liv Morgan and she's going to forget all about it. So he brings the flowers in and he says that it wasn't what it looked like last week. And Liv said, "Oh, I'm not mad." And then she proceeded to give Dom a whole list of chores, basically, and things she wanted him to do, including going out and grabbing my bags from the car. And you can grab Raquel's bags as well. So Liv left, and Dom told the guy, "See? I didn't think that she would be mad at all." So Bálor laughed at him and turned his attention to his match later against Damian Priest. Bálor told Dom, "Why don't you hang back during my match and focus on making things right with your woman? And you could do that by going and getting her bags." So he didn't want Dom to have anything to do with his match later in the show. We had Sheamus. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. One-on-one. On the one hand, it feels like we've seen this match at least half a dozen times. But when they go out there and they have the match, it's usually very hard-hitting and they have a good match. And so tonight was just more of the same from these two. Sheamus set up for the 10 beats. Kaiser kicked him off the apron, though, and he flew into the edge of the announce desk. Kaiser left the ring and he did his little run. He ran at Sheamus, who was sitting up against the barricade. It looked like he was holding a chair. And he delivered a running drop kick to him up against the barricade. After a break, Sheamus's pasty white skin was beet red. Kaiser kept kicking him until Sheamus, he's like no-selling it. Now he stands up and he chopped Kaiser, clotheslined him, and then hit the 10 beats. Sheamus followed that with white noise from the second rope. Got a good near fall out of that. Kaiser grabbed the shillelagh. From the corner. Sheamus, though, hit Kaiser with a running knee strike and knocked the shillelagh out of his hand, which would have been a DQ had he hit him with it. Sheamus then set up for a brogue kick Kaiser, though, chopped him instead, and Kaiser went for another chop. Sheamus hit him with a knee. Kaiser responded with a rolling senton for a 2 count. And then he teased a kick, but he ran into a brogue kick. And it is a brogue kick. I saw one comment online today, somebody who thought it was the bro kick. No, that would be Vince Russo's finish. If Vince Russo was a full-time active wrestler, his finish would be the bro kick. Okay, it's the brogue kick. And he pinned Kaiser to pick up the win. When the match was over, Sheamus went to ringside. He starts celebrating with Pat McAfee. And there's Braun Breaker. They had showed him earlier on. He was sitting in the crowd. And so Sheamus goes over to Braun Breaker, and now the two of them, Braun stands up, and the two of them now are face-to-face. They got up in each other's face, and Braun gave him a shove. And they had to be separated by officials to break things up. Again, the match itself with Sheamus and Kaiser, it was fine. It just, it's more of the same. It just wasn't any different than any of the other matches we've seen them have. Sheamus was on with Chris Van Vliet. And Chris has been knocking it out of the park with his interviews recently. Seth Rollins and Sheamus also, he spoke to him recently. And in the interview that he did with Sheamus talked about, his hard-hitting style and the fact that he enjoys going out there and beating the hell out of people, but he wants people to give him the same back. So that's why when he wrestles, you see him, he's got the welts all over his body, and it looks like he's been in a fucking war, right? He likes that. And he likes opponents, like when he wrestled Gunther. He loved those matches because it's someone who could give it back to him as much as he can dish it out. And he just kind of relishes in that. And so Kaiser, I think, fits the bill as somebody who also can give it right back to him. But Sheamus and Braun Breaker is another one of those matches where I don't think Braun Breaker is going to have an issue giving it to Sheamus if Sheamus starts, throwing some bombs at him. And I think the two of them, you give them a platform to have a big match, and I think they could have a really good match. And we're going to find out how good the match can be because it's already been announced that on Saturday night's main event, the week before the Royal Rumble on NBC, Braun Breaker will defend the Intercontinental title against Sheamus. So Sheamus, once more, will have the chance to claim the championship, the one championship that he has never held, the one championship that has eluded him for his entire career. Do I see it happening, though, on Saturday night's main event? I don't. But it does make me wonder if, in fact, they are going to build an entire program out of this that will take us to WrestleMania. And Sheamus will win the Intercontinental title, if not at WrestleMania, sometime between now and WrestleMania. I hope so. That story needs to be told of him going after that title, maybe falling short again one more time, but then, he has one last chance and he finally does it. And he wins the championship. And for him, it would be this great moment, right? Because he's been world champion before. And again, we know the title means a lot to him. He's talked about it. So I hope they tell that story. I just don't see a title change happening on that show. I feel like you want to save that for a much bigger show because it would be a big moment. And I feel like in a stadium setting, whether that was, look, the Royal Rumble already has over 50,000 tickets sold. Elimination Chamber is going to be in Toronto at what used to be the Sky Dome. And then WrestleMania is going to be at Allegiant Stadium. So take your pick. A show like that is where he should finally win that title for the first time. But I'm encouraged by the fact that we appear to be circling back around to Sheamus and the IC title. Because I was a little worried they were just going to move away from it and not come back to it for another year. But as I look at WrestleMania and where the pieces fall, Sheamus and Braun Breaker, I still think there's a chance they could do Braun Breaker and Goldberg for Goldberg's retirement match. But I would much rather see Braun Breaker and Sheamus and have Sheamus go over and win the championship. So first match, though, it's going to happen on Saturday night's main event. Kathy Kelly caught up with Seth Rollins in the back. And next week, we found out that it's going to be Seth Rollins in a WrestleMania rematch, one-on-one with Drew McIntyre. And he said that he owed Drew for WrestleMania, so next week should be fun. Rollins then ran into Sami Zayn, who told Seth that if he needed anybody to talk to, he was here for him. like his therapist. Rollins said last week was a rough week for him, and it was a great week for Sammy. Sammy was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, Roman Reigns, your boy Roman Reigns is the tribal chief again. He got his ulafala back, right? He got his falafel back. So Rollins asked Sammy if he was going to help Roman win the Royal Rumble too. He's going to help him go on to win the WWE Championship. He said, he asked Sammy if he would keep helping Roman Reigns or if he would start helping himself. Some food for thought. And then he walked off. Elsewhere in the back, The Miz was standing around, and Karrion Kross came walking out of what we were told was Adam Pearce's office. And this is where we found out, because Kross had just learned from Adam Pearce that the Wyatt Six have been transferred to SmackDown. Just like that. So that's the end of the Final Testament and the Wyatt Six. Uncle Howdy never did get his win back. Uncle Howdy got beat by Karrion Kross, and that is the cross he will have to bear as he now moves over to SmackDown. So, we had the Wyatt Six and American Made, right? I've been calling for American Made to be transferred from Raw to SmackDown. Now they went and moved the Wyatt Six to SmackDown. Now I don't know what the fuck to do. We don't need the Wyatt Six and American Made on the same show again. But American Made, I think, could really benefit from being transferred to another show. But as a faction, they're not feuding with the Bloodline. And they're probably just going to feud them with another faction. So it's either, take your pick. It's American Made in the LWO, right? Or I guess Legado, not the LWO. Or we get the Wyatt Six and American Made again. I don't think so. So now I'm not sure what they're going to do with American Made. But anyway. Sami Zayn shows up, and he asks, was Adam Pearce in his office? And Kross goes, yep. Then he stops him. He goes, oh, wait. He goes, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with Seth Rollins, and he tells him he found it very interesting. Miz said that if they were talking world titles, they didn't need to worry about Sami Zayn. And Sami said Miz has been Kross's lackey of late, and nobody was even thinking about him. So Miz got serious, and he got up in Sami's face, and he said, I've been a world champion twice, which is 2 more times than you could ever hope for. So Sami said, I have a few things I need to discuss with Adam Pearce, and now one of those things is going to be to get a match against you later tonight. So off he went into Adam Pearce's office, and Karrion Kross made sure the Miz knew that you're on your own tonight. You're not going to have our help. They come back live, and they showed the brand new NXT champion, Obafemi, in the crowd. Obafemi, boy, you talk about great prospects. You talk about can't-miss prospects. You talk about somebody who checks all the boxes of what you would look for. If you're WWE and Triple H and you're looking for talent to bring to Raw, to bring to SmackDown, right? Too early, because now he's the NXT champion. Let him have his run. He'll have his time. But when the time is right, he checks all the boxes. You look at him, he looks like a big monster, right? He's got the size. I've seen his matches. He's had some great matches in NXT. He can talk. He, like, everything that you would look for in a future world champion, Obafemi has. So we got our first little look at him here on this show, but it will not be the last. But we had the World Heavyweight Champion, the other World Heavyweight Champion, not the NXT Champion. We had Gunther coming out to the ring for a promo. And Gunther was not on the Netflix premiere last week, but he said he followed the show very closely and he was not impressed. A lot of people were not impressed. Gunther wished that they had a roster that could fulfill his high expectations. He said everybody is fighting over personal drama. Who's the head of the table? Who's the best in the world? Who cares, he said. And he put over his world title as the most important in WWE. And then he got cut off by Jey Uso's entrance. And Jey Uso comes to the ring and he asks Gunther if he heard, wants to make sure he heard right, if he heard Gunther say that he was looking for somebody to care about the World Heavyweight Championship. He goes, well, you're looking at him. Main event Jey Uso. And he challenged Gunther for his title on Saturday night's main event. And Gunther laughed and he asked Jey if he was serious. And he said that Jey was courageous for challenging him, but Jey would be naive to think that he would be the guy to take that title off of him. And he reminded him, I've already beaten you twice, right? That was the semifinals, I think, in the King of the Ring. And then separately for the Intercontinental title. So he's got 2 wins over Jey Uso. He goes, what Jey is capable of is a lot less than what I am capable of. That's a shoot. He said, when the bell rings, I will expose you for what you really are, a really, really talented tag team wrestler. He said, Jey is not on his level, and to Gunther, main event is not just a nickname. It's a place where he belongs. He said, Jey should stick to his yeet and out of the championship business. He said, Saturday night's main event is fine with him, but the choice is yours to make. And then he dropped the mic and he left the ring, and Jey picks up the mic and he tells Gunther, who's in the aisle, he tells him, hold up. And he got serious and he said, everything that you said was true. He said, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be in the spot that I'm in. I'm not supposed to be selling as much merchandise as I'm selling. Every day he wakes up and battles for himself, and he will earn Gunther's respect at Saturday night's main event. So we have ourselves a World Heavyweight Championship match now the week before the Royal Rumble. It will be Gunther defending his title against Jey Uso. They needed a big match for that show because the show is less than 2 weeks away. You're not going to have Cody Rhodes defending the WWE title a week before his ladder match with Kevin Owens. But you want to have at least one World Championship match on that show. Gunther, he has nobody at the Rumble to defend against. So Saturday night's main event makes sense. Jey Uso I didn't see coming, but I probably should have, because that's why they gave him the win over Drew McIntyre last week. They had that nothing match that was very cold and nobody really reacted to. And then he got that shock flash pin over Drew with the crucifix. And it's like, what are we doing here? But they were setting him up to come out here the following week and challenge for the World Heavyweight title. And, you know, here in this segment, Gunther was his usual condescending self. He's great at that in these promos. And nothing he said was necessarily wrong, because that is how a lot of people look at Jey Uso, even still. You know, he was a great tag team wrestler who got hot, and, you know, the fans got behind him, and now he's getting a big singles push. But when the bell rings and you put him in the ring with somebody like Gunther, or you put him in the ring with somebody like Drew McIntyre, or you put him in the ring with somebody like a Sami Zayn, or any number of people, he's not as good as they are. But in WWE, it doesn't even matter, really. You know, as long as you're serviceable in the ring, unless you're so horrendous in the ring, I mean, then, you know, you're not going to last very long. But he's so over right now. That's the thing. I mean, he is so popular. The fans love this man. And they love that visual of him coming out through the crowd and everybody doing the yeet dance, and he sells a lot of merch and everyone's wearing his t-shirts and they got the Jey Uso shades. You know, he's getting a main event push because the fans are treating him like a main event star. In ring, it leaves a lot to be desired. You know, that's just the way it is. It's a fact. You know, when I think back, what's the best Jey Uso singles match? I don't know. I mean, I think he had a match with Damian Priest at Backlash in France last year. I think that was pretty good, but I can't, like, I could tell you some great Usos tag team matches, right? Probably a bunch of them. A lot of them against the New Day. But, you know, the one they had with Owens and Zayn at WrestleMania a couple of years ago. But in terms of singles matches, I can't think of a single one. And so here he said, I'm going to go out and prove you wrong. I'm going to prove to you what I can really do at Saturday night's main event. And if anybody can pull, you know, the best match, the best singles match that Jey Uso is going to have out of Jey Uso, it's someone like Gunther. So they may well go out there and have a very good match. The question is, would they possibly take the championship off of Gunther on that show? I'm going to say no, that it doesn't happen. Could it happen? Yes, I could see it happen. And the reason why I think that is because they specifically brought up the fact here that Gunther has beaten him twice. Twice. Are they going to send Jey Uso, as over as he is, out there just to lose for a third time? I would hope so, because I think at this point, Gunther should be going into WrestleMania with that championship and defending it against whoever he's going to defend it against. It should be John Cena, but Yeah, they may end up going with Cody Rhodes against John Cena. Jey Uso going into WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion. I just don't see it. But the fact they brought that up, like, I've already beaten you twice. Gunther's not taking him seriously. Literally laughed him off. Like, those things make me think that, you know what? They might just have the balls to do it. Even if it's a short run. And it's not going to be a killer if it's a short run. So close to WrestleMania. You know, if you're not going to have Gunther defend against somebody like Punk at the Royal Rumble. Had they done that match, I think there was a very good chance Punk would have beaten him. But if he's not even going to have a match at the Rumble, and so you're just kind of moving on to Elimination Chamber, at that point, why are you going to take the title of Gunther when you're that close to WrestleMania? So to me, it just seems like they're sending Jey Uso in there to lose for a third time to the same guy, and I'm not really sure why you would do that. Why would you beat him 3 times? I don't know, but I don't see them doing a title change here. Michael Cole, for whatever reason, I guess he had a brain fart. They come back to the announcers and they are showing them on camera. And Michael Cole, and this is what he said. I had to go back and watch it again to make sure I didn't misunderstand him. But he said that Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event is going to be looking to win his first singles championship. I mean, he was sitting right there ringside, right? I mean, he's sitting right there at ringside every single week. Now, maybe he wasn't doing Raw when he won the title, right? Joe Tessitore was, but this was 2 months ago. He was the Intercontinental Champion 2-3 months ago. It wasn't even that long ago. It's just demonstrably false. So no, this will not be his first singles title if he wins it. It will be his first singles world title if he wins it. I think that's what he meant. Speaking of titles, following this, we have the finals of the Women's Intercontinental Championship Tournament. Hulk Hogan's not a fan.
You suck.
Hulk Hogan is not a fan of women's wrestling, apparently. Could not have timed that any better. Well, even though he may not like it, I like this match. It was Lyra Valkyria one-on-one against Dakota Kai, who has new music, and it is not terrible. I think it's going to be a little polarizing, but I didn't think it was terrible. It's rare that we get new theme music on this show that isn't terrible, so I thought it was fine. But the action was quick here to kick things off. Again, this was one of the matches I'm sure that had its time cut because the Penta stuff went long. But neither woman got the upper hand here in the early going. They went to the outside. And Lyra went for a kind of a missile drop kick or like a basement drop kick through the ropes. Dakota caught her and planted her on the apron. So Lyra shot back by planting her. Lyra then, they're on the apron. And Lyra Valkyria delivered a vertical suplex to Dakota Kai off the apron all the way down to the floor, and both women went splat. It's like, that's a hell of a bump. That was it's a simple suplex, but from the apron to the floor, and it made a thud. I'm sure it knocked the wind out of each other, but yeah, that was like, wow, okay. So the show came back. They were in the ring. Lyra worked over the back, and the two of them got to their feet. Valkyria hit a bunch of kicks until she caught Dakota, but she failed at an attempt at a powerbomb. Dakota took advantage with her modified backbreaker spot for a 2 count. Then she went for what she calls the GTK, but Valkyria countered into a running sit-out powerbomb. Lyra then hit a leg drop from the top rope for a 2 count. Dakota came back and hit a stomp, and then hit the GTK. Fucking dyslexic tonight. Valkyria, though, had the presence of mind after she hit her finish to roll out of the ring. And the crowd was like, because they knew, right? They knew that's it. If she pins her in that spot, she's got the title. Presence of mind, Lyra rolls out of the ring. So Dakota couldn't capitalize. Dakota rolled Lyra back inside, and she went for a running kick, but Valkyria moved and then hit her Nightwing finish to put it away and become the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. And after the match was over, Lyra celebrated on the ropes, hold up the title. They shoot pyro off all around, just like they did for Chelsea Green after she won the U.S. title on Saturday night's main event last month. So we have our two women's mid-card champions now. Chelsea Green is the United States champion on SmackDown. Lyra Valkyria, who I picked from the beginning. I did not pick Chelsea. I thought it was going to be Naomi, but I had Lyra from the start, and it just made all the sense in the world because they had cooled her off so much. You know, there was that initial period when she first got called up, and Becky Lynch was kind of doing some segments with her, trying to give her some rub, and then Becky went away. When Becky went away, Lyra made it all the way to the finals of the Queen of the Ring, and she got literally squashed by Nia Jax. And basically, whatever push she was getting was squashed that night because they did fucking nothing with her for months. Cooled her off. She needed this. And I still feel the same way that we're going to see Becky Lynch back very soon, if not at the Royal Rumble, maybe before then even. I still feel like the direction for WrestleMania, and maybe it's just me hoping that we don't just have Rhea and Becky, ran back for the second year in a row. Because I don't think we need Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania again. There's at least a couple of other people I would much rather see Rhea Ripley in the ring with at WrestleMania than Becky Lynch. I think Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria for the Intercontinental title. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to have Lyra in there with a bigger star who establishes that they want that title, because it just makes the title feel that much more important if you have somebody of the stature of a Becky Lynch who wants to challenge for it. I feel like that's going to be the direction for WrestleMania. Assuming that there is, by the way, a women's Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. Maybe there won't even be. But if there is, I think that would be the match. We had Sami Zayn one-on-one with The Miz, who got the jobber entrance. He may have 2 world titles more than Sami does, but at least Sami gets a fucking entrance when he comes out. So Miz had control early until he ran into a punch from Sami and then a double axe handle. Miz came back with a running kick. Then he posed and the crowd booed, and while he was doing that, Zayn took advantage of him playing to the crowd and clotheslined him. He hit an exploder on Miz into one of the corners. Zayn set up for the haluva kick. Miz caught him with a boot, though, and a DDT. And then Miz ran to one of the corners and didn't see Sami also running in, and he caught him with a haluva kick. But that wasn't the finish. He kicked him in the face, and then Sami hit a blue thunder bomb. And he pinned The Miz after the blue thunder bomb. So Sami Zayn actually wins a match with the blue thunder bomb. I had a big smile on my face. You guys know I've talked about this. I love that fucking move. And I, for years, have said that I wish he would adopt that as his finish. And I could think of maybe 2 matches that he's ever won with that. I think it was one of the matches I'm almost positive was against AJ Styles. But I thought what they did here, that needs to be his new finishing combo. The haluva kick to set up the blue thunder bomb for the finish. That needs to be his new finishing combo from now on. Unless he's in the ring with somebody that's so much bigger that, he can't get them up for a blue thunder bomb, then use the haluva kick. But who would that even be? Omos is busy, man. He's one half of the GHC Tag Team Champions in Japan. Okay, maybe Sami can't get him up for a blue thunder bomb, but otherwise, he can get everybody up for that move. That needs to be his new combo for the finish. But this match went less than 5 minutes. Again, it probably had its time cut. There really wasn't much to it. Sami Zayn just feels very lost right now as we head into WrestleMania. They put him back with the Bloodline for War Games, and now they got away from it again. And Kevin Owens is in the middle of a great program with Cody Rhodes that looks like it's going to end in a couple of weeks. But then he'll still have Randy Orton waiting for him when he comes back. But Kevin Owens also did make that comment when he was sitting in the car with Michael Cole in that promo all those weeks ago and said, we'll cross that bridge. I got a bone to pick with Sami Zayn. We'll get back to that at some point. Do they get back to it in time for WrestleMania? Do they get back to it in time for the Elimination Chamber show, which is going to be in Canada? Do they do a match there? What is going to be the direction for Sami Zayn? Sami Zayn at WrestleMania last year won the Intercontinental title and handed Gunther his first loss on the main roster. That was a big spot. The year before that, he was in the main event on night 1, winning the tag team titles. So they have to have something of some significance, I would imagine, lined up for him this year. I don't know what that would be. You know, one idea that I thought maybe they would go with, and I actually feel like this would not a slap in the face, not the right way to put it, but this would be a big downgrade for Drew. But they've talked about the story of how Sammy can't beat Drew McIntyre, right? He just lost to him again at Saturday night's main event. Maybe they build to a Sammy and Drew match where Sammy finally gets a win over McIntyre, but just I feel like that would be a waste of McIntyre, though, at WrestleMania. So, if not that or a match with KO, I'm not really sure what Sami Zayn is going to do. There's still time, you know, to build something. Maybe something comes out of the Royal Rumble, but I don't know. As I sit here right now, I don't know what the direction is going to be for Vegas for Sami Zayn. Now, after this, we had an in-ring promo segment with the new Women's World Champion, Rhea Ripley. Mommy, she says, is back on top. She comes out to the ring and reminds everybody that she is the Women's Champion, as I could have fooled me. I mean, she had the belt. Thankfully, she told us that, or else I never would have known. So she really didn't say much of anything before we heard, let me reenact this music here. That's how it starts, right? See? Is that the Nia Jax music? Nia Jax. It's like Godzilla stomping through the city. Nia Jax comes out. And I'm like, oh. She was all over the show that I just watched on Friday, and here she is now on Monday. And the first thing out of her mouth was she said that she couldn't take it anymore. Yeah, you're telling me. I got enough of her on Friday. She mentioned the transfer window and said that she couldn't help herself because she wanted to talk to Rhea Ripley. And she said that she came out to let Rhea know that she is declaring for the Royal Rumble match. And she is going to take whatever title that she wants. She pointed out then Bayley sitting in the crowd and wondered what she was doing there. Bayley, for those who don't know, is from San Jose. It's her hometown. Nia said that Bayley would be from this poor, dumb, nasty town. So she said there's only one woman at the top of the women's division, and it is Nia Jax. And it is not Rhea Ripley. It is not Tiffany Stratton. It is not Bayley. Bayley finally hops the barricade, gets into the ring. And Bayley grabs a microphone and says, look, it might not be my show, but it is my city. And she called Nia a big old dumb idiot. Yeah. That's about as cool as Cope on Collision a few weeks ago, saying that Big Bill had a stupid face. Nia shoved Bayley to the ground hard, and then she shoved Rhea. Rhea then headbutted Nia. Bayley then popped up and cleared Nia from the ring, and Bayley and Rhea Ripley, they kind of embraced as Nia retreated up the aisleway. Take note of the fact that Bayley was looking down at that Women's World Championship that Rhea was holding in her hand. So Bayley has been on Raw a couple of times recently. I think there's a very good chance she'll get moved from SmackDown over to Raw, but it's not official. You know, she's still on SmackDown. But just flashing a stare at that title just to kind of, and Rhea didn't see it, but we did. Just to remind you that, like, if she were to win the Royal Rumble again, she won last year. If she wins it again, maybe she comes after Rhea Ripley. Of course, the chances of Bayley winning the Royal Rumble she's not Cody Rhodes. The chances of her winning the Royal Rumble 2 years in a row, I have a better chance of winning the Women's Royal Rumble than Bayley does winning it 2 years in a row. So that's not going to happen. But as far as Rhea Ripley, didn't say anything to give any indication of what direction they're going to be going with her for WrestleMania. Everything is really built around the Royal Rumble right now. I guess as it should be. Once the Rumble comes and goes, we'll get a clearer sense of what the direction is for some of these people. But they gave no indication whatsoever tonight. And I said before, you know, there's at least two names other than Becky Lynch that I would rather see Rhea Ripley in the ring with, defending her title against a WrestleMania. Io Sky is one of those names. Bianca Belair is the other. Bianca seems unlikely. She would have to win the Rumble to do it. Io seems more likely, but I don't know what the percentage is right now of that actually happening. It's not going to be Liv Morgan, but Becky's going to be back soon. Charlotte Flair is going to be back soon. Jordynne Grace is very likely going to be debuting in WWE in these next several weeks. Maybe she'll be in the Royal Rumble again. Wouldn't that be a nice kind of surprise win if she is back in the Rumble again this year, but now she's under contract and she wins? I don't think they're going to do that. I think they want to go with somebody who's more established. But I'm all for Rhea Ripley against Jordynne Grace. That's another match I'd love to see. More than I would Rhea and Becky again. The show closed with a street fight between Damian Priest and Finn Bálor. Once brothers in arms in the Judgment Day, and now bitter enemies. Priest entered with a kendo stick. He's standing in the ring with his back turned, waiting for Finn Bálor to make his entrance. And he did make his entrance, but he made his entrance out of nowhere from the crowd, from behind. And he hit Priest with his own kendo stick in the back. Now, the referee saw this coming, and he called for the bell, even though Damian Priest was about to get his ass attacked from behind. So Priest fought him off anyway, and they battled over near the announce desk as the crowd chanted, "We want tables." Priest gave him a flatliner onto the announce desk and then threw him over it. And then he grabbed a table from underneath the ring, but Bálor attacked him and they fought into the crowd. Bálor hit Priest with a trash can. Priest fought back and hit him hard over the head with said trash can. So they made their way up one level. I guess it would have been the 200 level. They make their way up some stairs, and it's like one of these balconies, right? These balconies that we've seen Sting do dives from in AEW. And they're brawling over there, and you could see that down below, they have two tables that are side by side right next to each other. Now, why else would they be there? And they set up this spot where Priest is setting up for a suplex, what looks like a suplex, from the 200 section down through the tables below. It ended up being a Falcon Arrow. And, I just can't imagine being in that position. Obviously, these are pros. They've done some crazy shit before. I mean, they know what they're doing. But still, you have to be precise with this stuff. And when you're up that high, they were fairly high up. And it's just tables and concrete. So many things could go wrong. You're a little off to the left, you're a little off to the right, you hit the railing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of margin for error on a spot like this, so you kind of hold your breath when they do it, but they nailed it, and it was a crazy, insane fucking spot, and he hits a Falcon Arrow, and they both go crashing through these tables. So they went to a commercial after this, and what happened is they had the medics come out, and we didn't really see any of this, but the medics came out, they ended up putting Bálor in a neck brace, and they put him on a stretcher. And Adam Pearce and Carlito and JD McDonough came out during the break to go check on Bálor. Priest, who had returned to the ring during the break, gingerly, but he made his way back to the ring. Once they came back live, we could see that Bálor was, being loaded onto a stretcher, and it's like, what's going on here? But as soon as they came back from break, Damian Priest leaves the ring, and he goes and attacks Carlito and JD McDonough. He starts hammering away at Finn Bálor, who is strapped to this stretcher and is completely helpless. And then he rolls the stretcher down the ramp, and the stretcher collides with the side of the ring. And Bálor rolled right off and into the ring. So McDonough and Carlito, they attack Priest. McDonough hit Priest with a moonsault off the top rope. They helped Bálor to his feet and up onto the top rope. Bálor ripped the neck brace off. He hit the double stomp onto Damian Priest, covered him, only got a 2 count. Carlito and McDonough, they set up a table, but the War Raiders made their way down. They rumbled down to the ring to take them out. Bálor hit Priest repeatedly with a chair. He placed Priest onto a seated chair and then placed a chair around his neck. Damian, though, was able to avoid a drop kick attempt, and he hit a South of Heaven chokeslam, but only for a near fall. So Priest then attempted a razor's edge through one of the tables that was set up outside the ring. Bálor, though, slipped out, and he ended up placing Priest onto a table, climbed up onto the apron, and off the apron, he jumped off, and he hit the coup de grace through the table, off the apron. And they both had a rough landing. I mean, he put Priest through the table with it, but when he landed, it looked like, he landed also on the table and may have gotten his back sliced up. So they take some time to recover. And a couple of minutes later, Priest ends up driving Bálor backwards through the barricade by the timekeepers area. So these guys are just out there beating the holy hell out of each other. Priest was about to bring Bálor back into the ring, but he looks over. And he spots there's one table left that was set up. And he sets up Finn Bálor for a razor's edge, and he plants him through the table with a razor's edge. And Bálor goes crashing through the table. He puts him back in the ring. Priest goozles him, and he looks him dead in the eye, and he says, "I am not my brother's keeper." And he must have lifted him fucking 10 feet into the air for a south of heaven, choke slams him down to the mat, and he picks up the win. So this turned into a hell of a match here, and this was the blow-off. It had to be. It has to be. This was the proper blow-off for the feud between these two men. Rhea Ripley has moved away, finally, at long last, from Liv Morgan. And now Damian Priest can do the same and move away from Finn Bálor, because there really is nothing left to be done between these two. There was really nothing left to be done between them after Priest beat him at Bad Blood. I figured Bálor would win at Bad Blood, and, they would continue to torture this man until he finally got his win back. But when he beat Bálor in October, I said, well, there's really no reason to extend this anymore. So now he just beat him again, and this has to be the end of this feud. But I thought it was a really fun main event. The insane Falcon Arrow balcony spot was just fucking nuts. I like the stretcher tease, though, because they really made you think, like, are they going to end this match? Is this going to turn, or when the War Raiders came out, are they going to turn this into a tag team match? But they didn't. They fought those guys off, and the match continued. But there were definitely fans in the crowd who were booing when they thought that there might be a stoppage, when they saw them loading Bálor onto that stretcher, which I'm sure was the point. But they went off the air. It was a little after 10:30 Eastern time. Because I was starting to wonder, like, okay, either they're saving something that wasn't announced for the closing segment, or they're going off the air early. And that's exactly what they did. They went off the air. If you would have expected it to be a full 3 hours, they went off about 25 minutes early. And I loved it. I loved it. I think that the show being, give or take, around 2.5 hours is just the perfect compromise, between the two they were doing and the 3 that we had previously. It threw me off a little bit because I was still wrapping up my notes, and I had the stream set for 11:25, so you got to adjust, but that's okay. I'm all in favor of the shorter show. I think that's the perfect length, and hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. But again, they'll have the power to fluctuate. So if 1 week they kind of map out the show and they're like, well, all we need is 2.5 hours, then unlike with SmackDown, where it has to be 3 hours, you don't feel like, oh, we have to stretch. Who can we throw out there for a random meaningless match? I know Triple H likes to get everybody on the show if he can, but it's okay if they miss 1 week. Now the New Day, the New Day has been completely just on the back burner for the last 3 weeks. 2 weeks at least, if not 3, which is crazy to me because of all the fucking heat these guys had after that Big E angle. They were the best part of Monday Night Raw. And they've been basically benched for the last couple of weeks. Now, they did announce that they'll finally be back. They'll be in action on the show next week. They better be. Because, that has been a noticeable sort of hole in the show where you had this really just nuclear hot heel act that is just relegated to meaningless backstage segments. So they need to be back on the show as soon as possible. They will be on the show next week. I thought this was overall an excellent show, a much better show. If you're a regular weekly viewer of Raw, this was the show that you were kind of hoping to get last week, along with the big appearances sprinkled in. And we didn't really get that. Last week felt like a reset where they put, kind of the closing. Yeah, they put the closing finish on a lot of those storylines like Roman and Solo and Rhea and Liv and Punk and Rollins, at least as far as, getting that first match out of the way. And now it's like, okay, now we're forwarding a lot of stories and now we're, getting some some longer matches. I think we had 5 matches this week. Last week we had 4. So it was just a better show. If you're a regular viewer, this was, I think, easily a much better show than the one we got last week, which was really the pilot episode, if you would. This week it was back to business. And Penta and the main event, those are the 2 highlights of the show. Penta had a fantastic debut. Bálor and Priest had a great blow-off to their feud. And you can't ask for, again, anything better than what we got with Penta tonight. I have high hopes for him going forward. I still do feel like at some point, him and Ray with Penta as a heel. I know he's super over, and they want to sell merch, so clearly he's not going to be a heel right now. But there is definitely a Penta dark run in him at some point that I hope we get the chance to see, where he just goes around and is doing what he used to do and is breaking people's arms every couple of weeks. That's the version of Penta that I have been waiting to see. But I'm very happy for him. I know this is something that he's wanted for a very long time. He had whatever money he was making in AEW, he had that guaranteed. And, the Lucha Brothers could have continued to reign, but he decided he wasn't happy. He wanted to take his chances somewhere else under a different administration. I don't know that he would have made the decision that he made, but it's a very different time now as compared to how it was 3 years ago or even 2 years ago in WWE. His chances of meaningful success on that main roster are a lot higher now than they would have been back then. I don't blame him for taking that chance. I don't even look at it as him really taking much of a chance. Considering what he was doing before, is it really taking a chance? To me, it was the obvious choice. His brother will join him eventually, but in the meantime, we get to see Penta do his thing on his own. I don't think he needs a manager right now. I do think at some point it might be smart to put somebody with him, but maybe that's when he goes heel. So maybe that's for, further down the road. But a great debut for Penta here on Raw tonight. Let's take a look at the poll. What did you think of Raw from Dallas? 87% thumbs up. 8% thumbs in the middle, and 5% thumbs down. So about 8 months until we get Phoenix. Well, it's something like that. I mean, supposedly Tony added about a year. So I don't know when he added that year, but yeah, we're probably looking at 9 or 10 months. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while before we see Rey Fenix on TV. But he'll be in at some point. Yeah, I know they had the New Day on the show as far as if you were an international viewer. I know there was at least one backstage segment with them, but that was for international viewers. They were not on the actual show. Like, a backstage segment that, half your viewers don't see doesn't mean anything. As hot as they were as heels, you got to capitalize on that. I'm still shocked they weren't really doing more than they had them doing last week. And then they weren't doing anything this week. Got to get them back on the show. If they're not on the show, then, what's the point? You're going to squander all that great heat that they had. It still can't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't count. Get out of here with that shit. It don't count. If I don't see them on my TV screen, it don't count. Sorry. 542 likes. You guys have guaranteed be the booker tonight. See, I should have put a goal up. You could have gotten some. Actually, I'll throw one up right now. I'll throw one up. Probably not going to do it, but whatever. I'll make it. This is going to be an impossible goal, but I'll throw one up right now. If anyone's crazy enough to do it. There it is. All right, let's take a look at your super chats here. What did you think of Monday Night Raw? What did you think of Penta's debut? Let's find out. We're going to start with Devin from New Jersey. One of the first super chats of the night. Wants to know, why does Punk make such a big deal about people interrupting him? In wrestling, people get interrupted sometimes on promos. Get over it. Yeah, and it would be fucking annoying if they interrupted me. So Punk's reaction is what you call realism. That's how most normal human beings would react. I appreciate some realism in my wrestling. Drew McIncock. I'm at the show tonight. I hope it is a good one. Love Solo. Well, you got a good one. You got a good one. And San Jose was a great crowd too, so give yourself a pat on the back. Chris O'Neill. They gave Penta the Def Rebels special, but besides that, good debut. Yeah, his music was nothing special. Hopefully they'll take the time to work on something better. Maybe this all came together very quickly. I don't know. Josh Carlos 98. At this point, if Malachi is coming back to WWE, Cross as a character is just redundant. Yeah, you got to keep them on different shows. I agree. I think you got to keep them on different shows. And Josh also says Gunther losing to Cody was a mistake in hindsight. In the bigger picture, it doesn't matter. But I wouldn't have done that. I would not have booked your two world champions against each other, but that's just me. Drew says, what fruit can you sit on? A cherry. Hey, Sidro, he's stealing your gimmick. Jerome Eugenio, when Phoenix gets to WWE, Chad Gable can lose to him too. Yeah, he can. He can. That's true. Carlos with the $9.99. How much stock do I have to buy for Finn Balor to get a win? You know what we can do? We can have Finn Balor against Chad Gable. So that way, one of them is guaranteed to win. But you know what Triple H would do? They would go to a no contest. You would think, though, if you did a match between them, at least one of them would have to win. That might be the only way. And I swear I heard Michael Cole call him Pin Balor. Also, can we get Chad Gable against Kenny Omega one day? Well, if Kenny Omega wants to come to WWE, sure. Arabian Night 2000. Fire debut by Penta, but oh my god, the music, shaking my head. TKO and Triple H, too cheap to license music. And he says, fans won't know 75%. Oh, come Royal Rumble. Fans won't know 75% of who's coming out. Even AEW has better music. Well, with AEW, it's a combination of Mikey Ruckus, who is very good at what he does, and the fact that Tony Khan licenses music. You know, he breaks out the checkbook, and he'll pay for a Final Countdown. He'll pay for Seek and Destroy, by Metallica, or he'll pay for Jefferson Starship, for Orange Cassidy. And that's one of the things I like. You could argue whether or not it's worth it for him to be spending millions of dollars on this shit, but I wish WWE would do that the same. It's not like they don't have the money. Of course they have the money. They're just too fucking cheap to do it. Pick a couple of wrestlers. I mean, look, Punk already had Cult of Personality. He was basically grandfathered in, right? He had that back in 2011. He had it earlier than that, but in WWE, he had it in 2011. So, yeah, I don't know why they don't do it for some people. I don't know that they would do it for Penta. But I do wish they would lean a little more into licensed music because, God, they can use it right now. Donnie Yasu, when you head to Chicago for Friday, can you grab some muffins? Can you grab us some muffins from Mindy's Bakery? That's one thing I forgot last time. I forgot to make a pit stop at Mindy's. I may have to leave myself a reminder. It depends what time I get in. I don't know. Is Mindy's open on Friday? Aren't they closed one day during the week? I think they might be closed on Mondays. We got our boy Sidro is with us, and Sidro says, accidentally rubbed ketchup in my eyes. Now I have hindsight. It's awful. Did you hear about the guy who was afraid of hurdles? He got over it.
You suck.
Hashtag no sloppy seconds tonight. After reading that, I'm not so sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Sidro, thank you. Base Beerus, God of Seduction, Malachi against Penta in WWE this year. Well, now it's possible. I mean, they may end up on different brands, but now it is possible. Base Beerus says, Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you, too. It wasn't really a happy Monday, though. Not until we went live tonight. Then it's always a happy Monday. I always give you guys a happy ending here on Mondays. Base Beerus with the $2 again, thank you. Jeremy Rose, Penta, WrestleMania opponent. Ray, Dom, or someone else. Well, I would have said Ray. But, you know, if they're going to keep him as a babyface, I just hope he gets a match. You know, Penta and Dom could be fun. I just hope he gets on the card. I don't even care necessarily what he does. I just would love to see him get a singles match on one of the two nights. Mr. Rod with the $5. From Lucha Underground to WWE, forever a fan of Penta. Let's get it. I know Mr. Rod is excited. I am too. I am too. Sidro. Did you hear about the stolen dog collar? Police are looking for leads. And why didn't Terminator upgrade to Windows 10? He said, I still love Vista, baby.
You suck.
Base Beerus, Penta, mucho dinero. Oh, Penta's going to make mucho dinero. TKO is going to make mucho dinero. It's the one thing they love more than anything else. They love it more than their own mother. It's making money. Jeremy Rose says if Big E comes back, how about we continue the Aleister Black angle that was starting before he got fired? Could also incorporate New Day into the story. That ship has sailed. They're not going back to that angle, and Big E may not be coming back. Big E, when I mentioned potential surprises in the Royal Rumble match, I was also thinking Big E, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know if he's secretly cleared, or maybe that's me trying to kind of wish that into existence, because what a great moment that would be. But 50-50. Could go either way, I don't know. Dark Effect with the $27. My son saw Penta tonight, who is not a big wrestling fan, and immediately thought he was the coolest person ever and already wants the mask. Seeing his excitement alone makes me want to see what they do with Penta. See, that's a great story. I would also think, look, I'm not a kid, and I could look at Penta and go, okay, this guy's got a badass look. If you're a kid, if you're 10 years old, and you're 12 years old, 8 years old, you're sitting in the crowd and you're looking at this guy who you've never seen before, and he's out there with the makeup on his face and the mask, and he's got the gloves on, and he's doing his little, he was almost doing like a La Parka dance at one point. And he's doing the hand gesture. That's the kind of guy you're going to want to, buy his t-shirt. You're going to want to watch his matches and cheer for him. He's got that cool factor to him. He's got that appeal, especially to kids, I'm sure. Dev to Dust. What is your favorite Hogan lie? I mean, everything out of his mouth is pretty much a lie, but I always come back to the one where he used to travel back and forth to Japan so many times that he once worked 400 days in a year. He's a time traveler. The man is a time traveler. Retro KOH, what if Hogan appears on Saturday night's main event backstage? The lights go out, and the Wyatt Six stand over his body. Jesse Ventura can point and laugh on commentary. I got a better idea. How about he's not on the show at all? Emmett with the $49.99. In Solo we trust. Emmett. Holy shit. Emmett coming in hot with the $50 super chat drop.
Yowie wowie.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you, brother. Base Beerus, it's time for a Logan and Hogan collaboration, brother. The Mount Burning Kid, Christopher Bennett, that's suplex spot with Lyra and Dakota. Man, yeah, that was pretty rough. I mean, it was no Falcon Arrow off the balcony through 2 tables, but that was a pretty rough spot. Bobby's World gifted 5 channel memberships. Thank you, Bobby. Can you fly, Bobby? Sidro with the $15 super chat. We got more Sidro here on our stream. What do sprinters eat before they race? Nothing. They fast. See, that one was pretty good. I'm not going to boo you for that. And what has more lives than a cat? A frog. Because it croaks every day. P.S. Thanks for listening to my new beats. Hope you use them here someday. Thank you for sharing them with me. I'm enjoying the vibe. Eric Deshawn with a $50 bomb. He's joining Emmett. Look at that. $50. I spent my New Year's in the hospital due to kidney failure, and I have spent the past couple of days in dialysis treatment. So I couldn't watch much wrestling until tonight. The only thing I do during my treatment is listen to Solomonster. Keep it up. Eric, I'm very sorry to hear about your health troubles. That's terrible. And I don't know if it's a temporary thing or if they think it's going to be kind of an ongoing thing. It sounds like it might be an ongoing thing, but if these shows and these streams can help you take your mind off it for a little bit and pass the time, then I'm very happy to hear that. But it sucks that you have to go through that, but thank you very much for the support. And I am hoping that as we move on here in this new year, I hope things can improve. That's my hope. Ayo. We got Ayo Winston. Wanted to show some long overdue support. Started listening to you on TV Tracks. Literally the only reason I ever used Stitcher. Used Stitcher. That's the old days now. Thanks for everything. Thank you, brother. Oh man, I remember when I was nominated many years ago. I was nominated for a Stitcher award, and they had an awards ceremony, and I couldn't make it. But they live streamed it, and so they read the names of the nominees in the categories, like best sports commentary show. And I was in there with some pretty heavy hitters, and there's a woman who's reading the names, and I'm like, I hope she pronounces the name of the show right. And then she gets to the show, and she says it like almost in the form of a question. It's like, Solomonster sounds off. I'm like, oh, you. I played the audio on the show. This was years ago. So when I think of Stitcher, it's the first thing I think of those freaking Stitcher Awards from 2013. Solomonster sounds off. Sir. Yeah, thanks. Retro KOH, I don't like Mr. Sacco. He sounds like a real cock blocker. Why'd you put an X in there? It's Cox blocker? Did you misspell that? Matt Fisher. If AEW loses Cole and Bryan, is MJF able to carry it himself? Oh, and boo Hogan. If they lose Cole and Bryan's pretty much done as it is. And Cole has been virtually a non-factor to me since he came back. I mean, I'm glad he's back and wrestling again, but hasn't regained any of the feeling that he had previously when he was doing the angle with MJF. You ask about MJF carrying it on his own, but I mean, how can you say that when you look at the talent they have? Why should he have to carry it by himself? They got Kenny Omega, they got Will Ospreay, they have a whole fucking roster of people. He shouldn't have to carry it himself. Not with all the talent they have. If they were to lose Cole and Bryan, it's not going to make a difference in the grand scheme one way or the other, because Bryan is pretty much done anyway. Even MJF doesn't feel special at this point. MJF now feels like another guy. MJF made the wrong decision. He may have made the right decision for himself, but as a fan, and I'm watching this play out every week, and he should have zigged when he zagged. I'm sorry. Because I guarantee you, had he done that, right now he would be a much bigger star than he is. Eric Deshawn, renewed for 23 months of membership. Happy late Christmas and New Year's, everyone. Yes, again, hopefully your new year will soon be going better than it is right now, Eric. Matt says, time frame for FTR to become the Revival again. You know what? I actually think they drink the Kool-Aid, and I think that they're content where they are, and they're not going anywhere. You know, they're there with their best friend over there, and I think they're AEW for the foreseeable future. I don't think they're going anywhere. Retro KOH, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, brother. Alfonso with the $9.99. Had more fun watching this show than the debut episode, Street Fight Penta debut, and the women putting on a great match for the IC title. And no Hogan. Great show. I agree. Matt says, if Gable sold the ankle 1/3 of the time, he still would be better at selling than half of the roster for 1/4 of the time. You're going to make me do math at 1 o'clock in the morning? That's cruel. And you're going to do fractions? Don't make me do fractions at 1 o'clock in the morning. I can barely do them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We got tongue. Not saying the rest of that. You were right, Solo. Look at Corey Graves' last tweet. Uh-oh. Let's go see. Let's go see. What did Corey Graves tweet now? Let's see what he said. Corey Graves on Twitter. All right, so he tweeted this at 11:37 p.m. This is his official X account. Now, before I read this, if you missed it, Corey Graves was moved from the main roster shows to NXT. They added him as the 3rd man now. He's with Vic Joseph and Booker T on Tuesdays. And I made the comment, I watched that NXT New Year's Evil show. When they introduced him...
I love you, Solo! You are my tribal chief!
I watched him on that NXT New Year's Evil show. When they showed him at the beginning of the show, and they introduced him, right before they cut away, he had a look on his face like he did not look like a happy man. That's like, it was so noticeable. So now let me read this tweet. Imagine chasing your dream, then being told, not deciding, that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream. Then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent and being pretty fucking awesome at it. And then when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job. Just in case you've wondered where I've been. Oof. Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, look, it was so noticeable. It was like he could not visibly hide his anger and disappointment on his face. He has about as good of a poker face as Cody does. When Cody was in the ring with The Rock last year and he looked like his dog died. So it was very apparent to me that he was not thrilled about what I look at as a demotion. And I don't care what you think about NXT. NXT could be the best show in the world. NXT is where people go with the hope of eventually being on Raw or SmackDown and making Raw and SmackDown money. That's why NXT is what it is. So if you are moved from Raw or SmackDown to NXT, that is a demotion. I don't know why some people are offended by that. I mean, it's just what it is. It's not a reflection of the quality of the show. It's a demotion. So why wouldn't Corey be upset at being demoted? You know, he's going from doing commentary on a show talking about the Bloodline and talking about CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre to doing commentary on a show talking about Charlie Dempsey and Sol Ruca and Eddie Thorpe. Big difference. I'd be upset too if I were him. How long before that tweet is deleted, by the way? Let's wait and see. J.R. Vischer, Gable is the new Ziggler. Well, I mean, look, Ziggler had a nice career for himself and made a lot of money, but I don't know that Gable would necessarily want to be the next Dolph Ziggler. Prince Vegeta says, depending on if he stays popular and if he sells a lot of merch, could you see Penta possibly winning Money in the Bank? Have him cash in on the world title? Yeah, I could see him winning Money in the Bank. You know, King of the Ring, no. Money in the Bank, yes. Innuendo, I love you Solo. How do you see Roman's story going forward? Or on this show, many people and even Gunther mentioned him. Also, the Rumble is up in the air. Roman's got a lot of different options, man. You could still do Roman and Rock. That seems unlikely. Roman and Punk was rumored. Roman and Drew. Drew McIntyre is making Roman Reigns his target. We could very well get Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That's been a WrestleMania match before, by the way. They did that at WrestleMania 35 when Roman came back from, you know, his last bout with leukemia. They didn't really have him factored into the WrestleMania plan, so he ended up on an undercard match against Drew McIntyre. That was the last WrestleMania I ever went to. So it wouldn't be their first WrestleMania match, but now there's so much more story and there's so much more history there. It would mean so much more at 41 than it did at 35. So there's a lot of different possibilities. Seth Rollins, put him on the list too. Roman and Seth, I could see that as a potential match as well. Ezekiel Alvis with the $9.99. What's going on, Ezekiel? Thoughts on a final six of Roman, Cena, Punk, Orton, Rollins, and Drew, and who wins? Plus, what does Sammy and Jay do at WrestleMania? I just talked about Sammy earlier. I'm not sure. His direction for Mania is very unclear to me right now. If that were the final six, I still feel that Cena would be the favorite. So I would probably stick with Cena. I would not mind. I wouldn't mind most of them. I mean, I wouldn't mind Drew. I just don't see Drew challenging Cody or Gunther. So I'm going to stick with Cena as far as like a prediction, an early prediction, but I think Cena or Punk. Cena or Punk. Nick Grasso with the $9.99. I don't understand why they moved the Wyatt Six to SmackDown without doing a blow-off with the final testing. Also, does this mean Alexa Bliss goes to SmackDown when she comes back? I don't know. Let me defer to BlissFan. BlissFan, what's going to happen? BlissFan is my resident Alexa Bliss expert, so I will defer to him on that. But yeah, I'm surprised we didn't have any kind of blow-off with the two factions. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to lie. I don't really give that much of a shit, but it is weird that they ended it the way they seemingly ended it the way that they did. Sidro, 3 high jokes time. High jokes? Drunk drivers will run a stop sign. Stone drivers will wait for it to turn green. What do you call a stoner with 2 What does that say? What do you call a stoner with 2 spliffs? Double joint? What the hell is that? A spliff? Are you high right now? Double jointed, he says. And if weed puns are a sin, I'll see you in hell. Oh my God.
You suck.
Is Blissfan even here? Blissfan was here earlier. And I think he may have just been so disgusted at the idea that the Wyatt Six have been moved that he may have logged off. So yeah, I haven't seen him recently either. A spliff is a joint? Okay, well, you could tell I'm such a big smoker. What the hell does that even mean, though? A spliff? Who came up with that fucking name? I thought it was like a doobie. I don't know. I don't know. This stuff is too complicated for me. I was always the guy, I'd be sitting in a group of people and they would pass that shit around and I'm just like, yeah, you can keep going. Like, Sidro accidentally typed at Stoner Monster, hashtag too high. Yeah, I could tell. You don't have to tell me, I could tell. A doobie is so 1977. This motherfucker just said doobie. 2025. What do you want from me? I just watched Shaft. I watched Shaft a few weeks ago, so you know, hey, that's where my mind is still. I wasn't even born in 1977, so. Mikey Clayman. Is weed illegal where I live? I'm in New York. Are you kidding me? Everywhere I fucking go, I smell that shit. I hate that smell. Fucking hate it. It goes back to college. I just fucking hate it. Oh, man. The Devil's Lettuce. That's right. The devil. Mikey Clayman, best Raw intro song. I would say Across the Nation. No, it's gotta be Raw's War in '98, man. The Attitude Era. It's the light of the box and the soda beat you walk by. It's gotta be that, man. It's the Attitude Era version. Duff's Vids, what do you call a pig playing tug-of-war? Pulled pork. See, now that's a good joke. That's a good joke. See, Sidro, you gotta get your jokes from Duff's. That's what you gotta do. Tongaloa superfan. I'll bet Tongaloa's sitting home right now smoking a couple of doobies. How concerned are you that we won't get Tonga Mania this year? It seems like we were building up to that before he got injured. Well, that's why the WrestleMania card is kind of up in the air right now, and I don't know what Roman Reigns is going to do, because I think Roman would have worked his way through the new bloodline until he got to Tongaloa at WrestleMania, and now everything's just sort of up in the air, and I don't know what's going to happen. DDDDD with a $4.99. You see what Corey Graves just posted on X? It's weird. He seems upset with WWE. He did not say WWE, but it's clear who he meant. Hope there aren't issues. Well, I just told you what those issues are. We just had a whole conversation about that, so hopefully I filled you in. Hey, Rodney Valancourt, you have arrived at the right time, man. This channel, man, it's been exploding all day. I'm telling you, man, that Hogan video brought in fucking 300 new subs alone. Most people in agreement. George Seckman, does Bliss go to SmackDown with the Wyatt Six or stay on Raw? Bliss is going to go wherever there's a need for Alexa Bliss. If they need her on Raw, if they want some more depth on Raw and they want her to, be on Monday nights, then that's where she'll be. And if they feel like they need depth on SmackDown, then she'll go to SmackDown. I think she ends up on Raw. Carlos. Shut the fuck up. Where's my doobie? Fuck that tree. Thank you, Sidro.
Look, everyone, it's Samoa BRO.
And Samoa BRO is with us. Haven't watched Raw yet, hope it was fun. It was better than last week, you'll enjoy it. Carlos says they should put Dragon Lee on SmackDown. They should put Dragon Lee on a missing persons poster is what they should do. Ross Lawman, worst thing for Tony Khan and AEW is if underused people start being successful will lead to more people leaving. I don't want AEW turning into 2010 TNA. Well, they haven't brought in Hogan yet. Tony Khan has said he has banned Hulk Hogan from AEW and his wife, so at least we know he won't show up there. HBKC83, scale from 1 to 10 chances that Hobbs wins the title. If you're asking me realistically, on a scale of 1 to 10, I put it at a 2. I talked about this on the podcast yesterday. Now that we know that Darby Allin is going to be gone for the foreseeable future, I wish I could sit here and tell you that the chances were a 9. As I said on the show this weekend, what do you have to lose by having him beat Jon Moxley on Dynamite this week? Nothing. Nothing. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. Bobby Means, I believe that this Rumble might be the most star-studded Rumble in a long time. I'll say this Rumble could rival the 1992 Royal Rumble on Okay, now you lost me. Those are fighting words now. You're going to compare this Royal Rumble to a Rumble that had Hogan still in his heyday. Hogan, Savage, Flair, Sid, Undertaker. Shawn Michaels, I guess, was still kind of in the infancy. He literally had just turned heel. But Piper, DiBiase, Jake. Why is Solomonster a Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him? With Gorilla and Bobby, no less, on commentary. I will say in terms of star power, no, Bob Backlund was 93. He was not in 92. In terms of star power, as far as the stars they have today, yeah, it'll be similar in that way. They're clearly going to have a lot of big names in this Royal Rumble. But you start comparing it to 92 and we're going to have a problem. Devin from New Jersey with a $9.99. Says, forgive my outburst, but earlier today I was cut off by a big-ass van that had a Pepsi sticker on the back, so I'm a little triggered by anything related. Hope you understand so. You are forgiven. Sure it wasn't Punk who was driving? Arabian Night. I don't know about you, but always felt Gunther and his wrestle-focused style would fit more in AEW because they have better in-ring roster. Him facing Jey and maybe Goldberg is a thumbs down. Gunther's style would work well in any promotion. Doesn't matter which one. He would fit in and work well with the roster in any company currently active today, including New Japan. I mean, imagine him against some of those New Japan guys. Navy 4181. If only Jay Lethal was in WWE, they could have had him trolling Hogan at every appearance as Black Machismo. I was going to make a joke, but I won't make that joke. Thunder Force 2000, did you see the John Cena versus Samoa Joe match that WWE added to their Vault channel? I did. Another Vault gem, another W for the Vault. A previously unseen house show match with no commentary and one camera view from 2017 between John Cena and Samoa Joe. which I don't think I've ever seen that match before. Like, I mean, any John Cena Samoa Joe match. So you can go check that out on the Vault channel right now. Arabian Night, Malachi in his new deal should say no Def Rebel. I don't really know that he's going to be in the position to make too many demands. I think he just wants to leave. And he'll be happy to take what he can get. The Juliet says, missed Friday's stream, but that double Be the Booker had me laughing my ass off. Also, did you hear that Bellator MMA is shutting down? No, I did not. I think Bobby Lashley was, when he was fighting, it was in Bellator, wasn't it? George Seckman, Malachi is going to take over the Wyatt Six. Maybe he tries to. Maybe that's how they introduce him. Feud him with Howdy and wrestles it away from them. I don't know. I mean, there's any number of ideas that you could try to come up with for him, but I just want to see the old Aleister Black back with that music and that presentation. It worked in NXT. And it could work on the main roster. He just never had the chance to really show it because look who was in charge at the time. How many weeks was it that he was sitting in that dark room by himself saying, "Fight me. Fight me. Somebody fight me." Yeah, great creative genius there. Verbal Souls. Solomonster are going to be pissed when Malachi joins the Final Testament or main event's speed. Not as pissed as he'll probably be. SNK Fan 01, can you make a stipulation where in Be the Booker, whatever wrestler you draw, it's an automatic bell, not a buzzer, and call it Tony Khan Books a Dream Match? No, I'm not going to do that, although I think you just gave me an idea. But I'm not going to do that. Justin Logue. Penta reminded me of the Predator for some reason. Don't tell Jesse. Can you imagine Jesse Ventura has to do commentary for a Penta match and he starts having flashbacks to the Predator? The Mount Vernon kid, Christopher Bennett. I have another TV recommend to add to your list. New York Undercover. It was a great series, another Dick Wolf cop drama with great characters. All right, well, we'll have to add that to the list. I'm thinking of maybe starting NYPD Blue. I never saw it. I never watched NYPD Blue. Is it worth it? I think I might try that next. Hydrograd 57. Great debut for Penta. He's my favorite luchador of the past 10 years, so it's great to see him in WWE. They've got to change the music, though. I really miss his Lucha Underground theme. Yeah, I do too. I do too. Hey, Trey Knight. Thank you, brother. Much love. Innuendo with 3 months of channel membership renewed. Who do you think takes the title off of Breaker? Also, what do you think will be Cena's first match? Also, I love you, Solo. I'm going to say that John Cena's first match will be the Royal Rumble. And as far as Braun Breaker, I'm going to say Sheamus. TK Banks calling it now. Sami Zayn wins the Rumble next year in Saudi Arabia. You know what? I could see that. And then you build the story about him winning his first world championship on the main roster at WrestleMania 42. You know what? If ever there was a place where you can guarantee a great reaction for him winning the Rumble, it would be in Saudi next year. Jeremy Rose, any chance Corey is working us and we get Pat and Corey WrestleMania match? If Jey wins, does he drop back to Gunther at Elimination Chamber so he doesn't take the pin? If Jey Uso were to win the world title on Saturday night's main event, he's not going into WrestleMania with the title. So yes, he would drop it back to Gunther. As far as Corey, is he working us and are they doing a match with him and Pat? No, I don't think so, but I guess we'll find out. If Pat starts making comments, then there's something to it. If Pat McAfee were to start bringing up Corey Graves in some way on his show or on commentary, you know, oh, I saw the comments that Corey Graves made, then that's an indication that they're probably working an angle. But right now, there's no reason to think that. There's no indication of that. Richie. Did you know that Brock Lesnar is back in the WWE roster? Surprise entrance at Royal Rumble. I don't think he was ever gone. I'm pretty sure he was always listed there. Retro KOH gives new meaning to Scooby Dooby Doo. He and Shaggy were 1,000% stoners. Sidro with the 12. If you're experiencing joint pain, you're probably holding the lit end. See, okay, that I got. Also, the other day my friend used my to-do list as a blunt wrap. I guess he was high on my list of priorities.
You suck.
King Nader. Hey, Solo. Haven't watched Raw yet? Hope it was fun. King Nader, thank you, man, for the 20 bucks. And yes, it was fun. Go check out this episode. You know, if I hear that music in the Women's Rumble, I'm gonna bang my head on this desk. Duff's Vids, what do you call a dog that's cold? A chili dog. Oh my good. My God. Guys are full of them tonight. I'm wearing this button out here. Little panda baby fire panda. I hate my job. All I do is crush cans all day. It's soda pressing. There aren't enough tomatoes in the world for the crew that we have here. The Learning Sicko, Dr. Bropio, WWE already burying Penta. He didn't do enough flips. He was selling too much. He was doing too much in-ring psychology. And he cut a post-match promo. Fed bad. TK would never book him like this. TK would never book him, period, so. Slim Yoshi, 2 weeks ago you said take out the shovel if Gable had lost to Otis. Well, time to take out the shovel for Finn Bálor. Feel bad for Bálor fans. If Bálor is going to move in the transfer window, it would be the reset that he needs. So wherever Damian Priest is going to be, Bálor should be on the opposite show. Then he could start fresh. He'll have a whole new slate of opponents to work with. And then he'll have a shot, you know, at redeeming himself after all of this losing. But that's why I started calling him Pin Bálor again. It's like I used to call Bray Wyatt the eater of pins, right? Whatever you think of Bray Wyatt, right? I liked Bray Wyatt, but that first run, he was getting pinned all the time in big matches, hence the eater of pins. Finn Bálor became Pin Bálor because he loses a lot. But you move him over to SmackDown, give him some fresh faces to work with, maybe his luck will change. RDS Harry, hey brother, I enjoyed listening to your latest podcast, and also to the fans who think Vince is coming back, they are jabronis. That's right, Harry. Just a bunch of jabrones. They got something wrong with them. Eminem with the 25, just made it in from work, but heard that Drew, Rollins, and Punk declared for the Rumble, with Cena and Reigns also in. Who's your final four? Lyra versus Becky soon, Penta versus Rey at WrestleMania, and Wyatt 6 on SmackDown. I think the final four should be Cena, Roman, Punk. I mean, I guess it depends who's winning, right? If Orton's going to win, then it should be Orton in the final four. But I'm going to say Cena, Punk, McIntyre, and Roman. Rollins would be 5, but Rollins would be dumped, and then I could see Rollins costing Punk. If Punk's not going to win, he can, after he's already been eliminated, he could help eliminate Punk. I think that's a pretty good guess at a final four. Christopher Bennett, 32 months of channel membership, says, NYPD Blue is great. Also watched the match with Jericho and Dax on Collision last week. Oh my God, this man needs... Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. I did see the match, and it fucking sucked, okay? I'm watching it, and it's just... I'm watching some of these shows, and it's just depressing, you know? And I know Dax is a really good wrestler, and Jericho has his moments where he could still pull one out. I don't know what it was. I don't know what went wrong. Obviously, the finish was fucking garbage. But I watched that and I'm like, because I think last week, wasn't it on Collision last week? I think it was a tag match and we had Edge and Jericho in the ring together. And now we have Dax and Jericho. And I'm like, why would I watch Collision on a regular basis? Like, why? Why would I watch that show? Why would I waste my time on a Saturday night and watch that show? SNK Fan 01, Penta versus Gunther in a crazy chop battle. Power Spine Games. What did Skip Sheffield say when he got injured in 2011? I'll be right back. He may have actually said that. Andre Israel, I used to work at an M&M factory, but I got fired for throwing away all the W's. And Tonga Loa Superfan. Loa means now in Samoan. And Cena's catchphrase is, my time is now. Are the seeds planted? Are the seeds planted for Tonga Loa to be Cena's final match and for Cena to pass the torch as Tonga Loa represents the now in then, now, and forever? You imagine John Cena's final match. We come to the end of 2025, big Netflix special, build a whole special around it. John Cena against Tonga Loa. It's the stuff of nightmares, even just thinking about it. I think you may be onto something, though. He's trying to crack the code here. He's putting two and two together. He's trying to figure things out. I think he may be onto something. I hope he's not. I think he may be on something. But he may also be onto something. I know Sidro is on something. I know that for sure. All right, well, those are your super chats. Quite a mix of messages there. We are currently at almost 650 likes. So you blew it out of the water tonight. Thank you, guys. Unfortunately, we're only going to have the one round of Be the Booker. So we're going to have to hope. We're going to have to hope. We only get one shot at this tonight. Let's see how we do. It's time to be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
I'm optimistic. Optimistic that we're going to do well here. Maybe I shouldn't be. Crack my knuckles here. All right, here we go. Taking this thing for a spin. Lots of great tag teams and not so great tag teams in here, but we're going to begin with a great tag team. Once upon a time, the Dirty Heels. Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. I think this was 2013, 2014 Impact, I think. All right. The Dirty Heels are going to be taking on the fabulous Rougeau brothers. Just landed on them last week, I think. How is that possible? Well over 100 teams in here. But that would actually be a very good tag team match. All right, that's a good start. It's a good start. All right. Women's Be the Booker now. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. When was the last time we saw her on AEW television? She has returned to Be the Booker before she was brought back by Tony Khan on AEW television. Britt Baker. Stepping into the ring here. With Mighty Molly Mighty Molly. Molly was a very good wrestler. Britt Baker, when she's in the ring with the right opponent, can have a very good match. And therefore, that equals a bell. I think Mighty Molly would give Britt Baker one of her better matches, actually. Always like the Molly go-round as a finish. Okay. One more match, right? That's what they always chant at the Hall of Fame. One more match. No one was chanting one more match when Hogan was out there last week. But that's what they chant at the Hall of Fame. So let's see. One more match. And we begin with the reigning and defending, undisputed WWE Heavyweight Champion of the World, Cody Rhodes. The man. The man himself right now in WWE is kicking us off. Cody Rhodes in the main event. We are officially in the Codyverse. Cody Rhodes will defend against Kyle Fletcher. And that, my friends, is a clean... Actually, you know what? We should pick a stipulation. We should pick a stipulation for our main event, since we're only doing the one round of Be the Booker. That'd be a great match. Now we just got to give it a great stipulation. We got a clean sweep. How about that? You like that, huh? You like that. All right. We need a stip. What's our stipulation going to be? Cody Rhodes and Kyle Fletcher are going to have themselves a first blood match. First blood. Well, you know, Cody is all over that. You tell Cody, hey, we want to have a first blood match. He'll be like, no problem. Although he's going to win. So he can't bleed first. Because they're not going to have Kyle Fletcher go over on... I'm booking it. I'm not going to have Kyle Fletcher go over on Cody Rhodes. But somebody will bleed. It will be a first blood match. There you go. See, we avoided catastrophe. You were worried, weren't you? You were worried about the stipulation, but see, it worked out okay this time. All worked out in the end. Yes, breathe a sigh of relief. All right, well, this was fun. I hope you had fun. The whole point of these are to have fun and to talk about wrestling, and that's what we did tonight. A fine episode of Raw and a great debut for Penta. And I am looking forward to the future and seeing what they do with him. Hopefully they don't let me down, because they certainly have before. But I've got my fingers crossed for him. The learning sicko, Dr. Bropio, coming in with a super chat. Fack the Hulk Hogan. Then, now, and forever. Well said. Well said. Speaking of which, again, if you missed it, you can go check out the entire segment lifted from episode 896 of the podcast this weekend. A video that is already approaching 50,000 views on YouTube alone. As I talked about the Hulk Hogan stuff from this past week. Left no stone unturned. I think I made my point very clear. So if you missed it, go check out the full show, but you could also go and check out the video right here on the YouTube channel. The next time I am with you is going to be on Wednesday night. We're going to talk AEW Dynamite, for better or worse. Jon Moxley is going to defend the AEW World Championship against Powerhouse Hobbs. And we have our first ever women's casino gauntlet match. The winner goes on to Australia to challenge Mariah May for her title. And God only knows what we'll get from Jeff Jarrett and MJF. Who knows? Who knows? They have Hangman Adam Page, by the way, on Collision this week, doing, is it a Texas Death Match? It's some kind of a match, stipulation match with Christopher Daniels. Like, what are we doing here? Hangman Page should be the fucking world champion right now. Why is he wrestling Christopher Daniels? And I have to sit through Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. Whatever. We'll save that for Wednesday. I don't want to end on a sour note. I want to end on a happy note. We'll talk more about this on Wednesday. Just remember, there's no SmackDown review on Friday. I will be in Chicago for House of Glory. Hopefully I get to see some of you there. Of course, you could check me out tomorrow night, Tuesday Night Titans. I'm going to be on with JD on his channel. That show that we did last week has already crossed 50,000 views. So thank you for the support there as well. I will see you on TNT, and then I will see you back here for the Dynamite review on Wednesday. Richie, it's the last word here. Bigger star, CM Punk or Edge? Figure it's probably Punk because both times he outshined him in his return in AEW and then in WWE. The answer is CM Punk. Be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great night. Come on back here on Wednesday and we'll do it all over again. Until then, take care, guys.